Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yes, officially it's 8 o'clock at night for me. I feel like I'd much rather a glass of red wine right now, actually. So I'm very tired. But bear with me. I speak fast anyway, so maybe it will slow me down, hopefully. So I'm Darren Brown. I'm a HIV specialist physiotherapist, and I'm very lucky to work at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. So I'm going to be telling you about our outpatient specialist HIV physiotherapy service. So I'm first of all going to be giving you a bit of an overview of the service and how it works. I'm going to be talking about some of the 2-year service evaluations that we've conducted. So the first one I'm going to tell you about is about our clinic, and the second I'm going to rehash some of the data that I presented at the last forum in 2014, just to give you a bit of an overview. I'm also going to do a shameless plug about an app that we have created, and there are some flyers outside, but I'll be telling you lots more. And then I'm going to be talking about some of the future opportunities that we've got. So first of all, where are we? Well, we're located in London, central London in fact. We're located in the borough of Kensington and Chelsea, the most affluent part of the United Kingdom. Now, our service, the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, has a satellite clinic next door to it called the Cobler Clinic. So my outpatient HIV physio service will accept referrals either from people that have been an inpatient on our ward, Ron Johnson ward, been in the Cobler Clinic, or in fact our other satellite services. So for example, 5016 Street, well-renowned, in central London in Soho. Our new clinic, 10 Hammersmith Broadway, which has just moved from Charing Cross Hospital into the centre of Hammersmith. And we've also just expanded as a trust. We've actually merged with another hospital called the West Middlesex Hospital, and so now we have HIV services across Hounslow, and we've also expanded even further, and we now have HIV services across Hertfordshire, which is north of London. I won't go into the complexities of funding between health and public health, but HIV and sexual health are separate, so in Hertfordshire we just have HIV. So my service will accept referrals from anywhere across those parts of the trust. So the service itself contains 2 key components. The first is the clinic. This is a one-to-one clinic with myself. My clinic is twice a week, Thursdays and Fridays afternoons. And the Cobler rehabilitation class. This is our group rehabilitation intervention. So what we've done is from October 2013, we've conducted a 2-year service evaluation, trying to find out, first of all, who's accessing this service. What interventions are they being provided with? And what's the outcome of receiving HIV specialist physiotherapy? And we've done this in 4 key ways. So first of all, we did a retrospective audit looking at the demographics of people that were coming and the interventions that they received. We also used the World Health Organization International Classification of Diseases, ICD-10 online version, to identify what were the common comorbidities that people were living with. We also used the World Health Organization ICF, International Classification of Function, Disability and Health, ICF checklist, as a retrospective tool to identify what was the level of function and disability that people were living with. And then lastly, Richard Harding mentioned this earlier about the EQ5D, we used the EQ5D, the Euroqual EQ5D 5L, so that means that instead of the 3L that Richard mentioned earlier, we've used the later version which used 5 levels for determining health status. And the point of using this is to measure change over time. What is the effect of having physiotherapy? It's a small service, so over this 2-year period we had 137 patients, and on average people were ageing with HIV, median age 52. 83% were male, 80% living with HIV for longer than 10 years, and 97% had an undetectable viral load. So on paper, mostly gay white men, which is very that's basically our cohort, living well with HIV, and on paper, living well with their numbers. But how did they present? We know that people were accessing this service from across London and further afield. What you can see here in the red circles is where the most common locations that people were accessing the service from. And unsurprisingly, it was the locations around the hospital. But what you can also see is that people are coming from far and wide across London. They're travelling long distances, and in fact, some people are even coming from far afield as South Somerset to access this service. Now, we haven't gone into this in detail as to what that may mean. It could be that people are not able to access the rehabilitation services that they potentially need, and so therefore are travelling long distances to access a very specialised service. Or it could be they would prefer to see a specialised service rather than their local services. So who came to the service? 87% of people that accessed this service were inactive and not meeting UK recommendations for regular physical activity. 71% were living alone, 64% lived locally to the hospital, and 61% were unemployed. We also know that on top of living with HIV, people were living on average with 5 additional comorbidities. And what we showed as well is that 87% of people that were accessing the service can be defined as complex comorbid. So basically what that means is living with HIV and 2 or more additional chronic conditions in 2 or more different body systems. For example, I'm HIV positive, I have COPD, and I have osteoporosis. So when we were looking at the ICD-10, looking at the common comorbidities that people were presenting with, this is what was most common. Depression was the most common comorbidity for people accessing the physiotherapy service. But also, chronic low back pain, probably quite unsurprising when you think about traditionally what people see physiotherapists as doing. But then also things like peripheral neuropathy. We saw that most of the cohort have been living with HIV for a long time and may have been on antiretrovirals from a long time ago that may have caused neurological disturbances. Bone and joint health problems, high blood pressure and high cholesterol. Interestingly, every last single one of these things has very good evidence base for physical activity as an intervention. When we subgrouped these, diseases of the musculoskeletal system and connective tissue were the most common. And again, I go back to most people perceive outpatient physiotherapists as dealing with musculoskeletal conditions, but also mental and behavioural disorders, endocrine, nutritional and metabolic disorders, and diseases of the nervous system. Again, all areas where rehabilitation has a really good evidence base. So when we used the ICF checklist, we was able to identify not only what the body function impairments were, what the body structure impairments were, but also what the activity limitations and social participation restrictions were, and also the environmental factors, so whether they be positive or negative towards that. Now, I've got the numbers there, but in summary, people were presenting with pain. They were presenting with problems with moving their joints. They were presenting with mobility issues, challenges to remunerative employment, and challenges to participating in community life. Now, what's really interesting with this is when we compare this to other data from other parts of the world, this is pretty much exactly the same as the experience in sub-Saharan Africa, except in sub-Saharan Africa, there are more challenges with self-care, so the ability to wash and dress. So what about when we looked at the EQ5D? So it was mentioned earlier that the EQ5D has 5 different domains of health status, so mobility, self-care, usual activity, pain and discomfort, and anxiety and depression, that's self-reported by the individual. What we did is we compared how people self-reported when they presented to HIV physiotherapy, which is the dark blue, compared to Richard's study, which was HIV outpatients in the UK, and then compared to the UK general population. And what we showed is that there was significantly higher self-reported problems across all domains in those people who were being referred to physiotherapy. Is this the tip of the iceberg of people that are living with the most amount of disability that are potentially accessing rehabilitation? Interestingly, the EQ5D also gives us an index value. This index value enables us to compare to other populations, and we were able to compare to elderly adults in Europe who are at risk of hospitalisation and mortality. Our index value indicated that patients who were presenting to physiotherapy had a worse index value than elderly adults in Europe at 12-month risk of hospitalisation. Our index value was also nearly as bad as 24-month risk of mortality. There's been lots of talk today about frailty. Is this another potential determinant of frailty? We have an ageing cohort who are at risk of hospitalisation, living with multiple health conditions and have functional challenges. So what interventions were people being provided with? So they can receive one-to-one physiotherapy with me in my clinic, or they can have a combined approach. So basically, what we'll do is we'll either refer them onto a local service, we'll refer them into the COBRA rehab class, or we'll be able to advocate for them in their local area, because we know that often people that may be independently mobile won't be able to access community rehabilitation services. So I'll often fight tooth and nail to make sure that people get it. Now, when it comes to the COBRA rehab class, 37% of patients require the COBRA rehab class. So they come see me in clinic, I assess them, we find out through a shared decision-making process what it is that you would like, and instantly get straight into the COBRA class. However, 53% of people overall accessed our group rehabilitation intervention. Now, when we looked at the EQ5D and change over time, what we showed is that from a self-reported measure, there were significant improvements in people's self-reported mobility, ability to perform usual activities, pain and discomfort, and anxiety and depression. What we also showed is that there was improvements in median scores across all domains, including self-care, and actually our index value significantly improved, so it took us outside of that range of being at risk of hospitalisation. So, what's our group rehab intervention? Well, it's supervised group exercise twice a week with physiotherapists. It takes into consideration all the evidence that's produced in the Cochrane reviews around making sure that we do cardiovascular exercise, progressive resistance training, neuromotor exercises, so that's balance, gait. I've got 1 minute. Oh my God, I'm never going to do that. Flexibility training and also guided relaxation. Now, I was really pleased to hear the talks earlier about self-management because we have a self-management programme within the COVID rehabilitation class. It's a group discussion that lasts for about half an hour, 40 minutes by different people, professionals, as you can see. So we've got OTs, psychologists, dietitians, we've got advanced nurse practitioners, sleep physiologists, psychologists, community organisations that come in and talk to us about the charitable stuff, so equivalent to aid service organisations over here. Stopping smoking, community organisations such as the YMCA that does group exercise programmes as well, intimacy and relationships, as well as confidence and pain management. And these are group discussions that are not didactic, they're the collective need of the group that drives the discussions. We do a raft of different measurements, so we look at height, weight, body shape, resting heart rate, people's walking ability with a 6-minute walk test, people's strength of upper limb and lower limb. We look at the health-related quality of life, looking at the FAHI, flexibility, and we do GAS goals, so what are people's own personal goals. It's a 10-week programme, so people start at week 0, we measure them again at week 10, but we don't drop them off the end of the cliff at the end of that, we allow them to return or restart with flexibility depending on their own health challenges and their own health needs. And we know that people that come to the service significantly improve their locomotor performance. So on average, 86 metres further, which actually exceeds clinically important differences for people with COPD, community dwelling older adults, stroke survivors as well. Strength in all of our muscle groups. Health-related quality of life in physical well-being and emotional well-being, and a trend towards functional well-being. Flexibility. And I think the most important of all is 64% of people achieved all of their goals. And on average, people were setting 3 goals, with the most common being body image concerns, wanting to participate in more social roles, and to feel healthier and fitter by doing regular physical activity. Now, this is a shameless plug. That's not going to work. I had a video. No.
Developed by Chelsea and Westminster Hospital NHS Foundation Trust.
Oh, you can hear me.
To help you be healthy, live well, and achieve your goals.
Well, there you go, you heard my voice. So, we've got an app. We developed this app, it's called BU+. There's a load of social media avenues that you can get here. So basically, BU+, at BU+. We're on Facebook, we have a website, we have a Vimeo account where you can watch our 3.5-minute video. The whole point of this app is moving away from a biomedical approach of supporting people to live well with HIV. It's not just about your CD4 count and your viral load anymore. It's about living well, it's about maintaining self-control, it's about achieving your personalised goals. And the whole point of this app is it enables you to do that, gain that reliable, accessible, convenient information that's specific to living with HIV. It not only navigates you around the app itself, so that if you're interested in looking at cardiovascular disease and HIV, it will then navigate you to smoking, navigate you to diet, navigate you to exercise. But also it navigates you externally to the app so you can get that reliable information and set your own goals. So our future opportunities, quite a lot. The COVID rehab class, we're hoping it's going to be published very soon in AIDS Care. Also some collaborations. So after the last forum, we managed to collaborate with Mark Spreckley from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, who's done a multi-stakeholder needs analysis on the COVID rehab class, which will hopefully again be published soon. Looking at research, so not only are we using Kelly's HDQ, the HIV Disability Questionnaire, in our over 50s clinic at the Chelsea and Westminster, we've also got it in the Dean Street cohort study, which is everybody newly diagnosed at Dean Street, who diagnoses 1 in 5 people living with HIV in the UK, and now having the HDQ completed. Also, after the COVID rehab class paper is hopefully accepted, we're going to hopefully look forward to moving forward into a NIHR application to look at a feasibility study on that, and also looking at expansion, because obviously the trust has expanded and we need to ensure that we're providing an equitable service, and part of that may be using technology, not only apps but also other types of technology, so that people can start to record their own health data. So, in a nutshell, we provide a physio service, one-to-one and group. And people attending are presenting with complex comorbidity. They're aging well with HIV, but they're presenting with functional disabilities. And by attending either the one-to-one clinic or the group rehabilitation intervention, you can improve a raft of different functional and disability measurements. And the app is available to now on iOS, so download it now if you want. Android soon.